Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Today I got the Roy Dippy, the King of Swords, for the obstacle, and the Four of Wands as the as the opportunity. So let's get started here. This is a cool card. This when I was younger and a little bit less experienced with the values and uses of the tarot, and when I looked at it as archetypes to project myself into, I always thought the King of Swords was. I was like, that's the one I want to be because I'm a thinker and a philosopher, and he's the king of the suit of the intellect, right? So of course, this is where I want to go. Um, I think this is not so much the case now. These all of these cards I think are useful to interpret as descriptions of some sort of archetypal external environment, other people. So, for instance, with these court cards, the kings, the pages, the queens, the knights, I like to think of them as symbolizing either literal other people, like literal others, as opposed to projecting I don't know, the archetypes onto myself, or to consider them as archetypes for others, but always as for others. And I think the King of Swords is an interesting character. This is certainly someone that sooner or later you're gonna run into. You're gonna run into this kind of person. This is in the most advanced form. I think this would be like a Socratic level, Socratic tier philosopher. You know, top S rank philosophy superstar, and this this kind of individual has an interesting twin role, twin nature, which I think is often overlooked. I think often this card is interpreted as, this is a shrewd, intelligent scientist, expert in their field. And I think that's true. And I think these individuals um, are are definitely likely to be not just very informed, but often they'll, reasonably have hold themselves in high regard for their accomplishments, for their intellectual accomplishments. That's certainly true. That's sometimes one of the annoying things that you have to deal with. For instance, if you hire an electrician and you happen to get one of these guys as an electrician, they're gonna they're gonna be very specific about everything. They're gonna charge you way more than an average electrician. They're gonna they're gonna make sure things are up to a standard that you might not even necessarily need. They're going to introduce some very high standards in their work. Often, if you're just looking to get some basic work done, it's a good idea to steer clear of experts on this level of knowledge because they're going to be minding to details that you would never notice, right? And you will pay a lot more for it, and they will demand a lot more appreciation of the fine work that they are doing. Um, So that could certainly be a negative aspect of dealing with an individual like this if they're not exactly what you want. This is exactly what you want in let's say, in a lawyer or in a doctor or a surgeon or something like that. You definitely want someone with this huge amount of knowledge and wisdom. Um, in those situations, it's also very important to be able to sort of separate their separate all the value that they can bring through their expertise, to be able to separate that from the manner in which they often do offer up that kind of expertise or advice, because these individuals are often so good at being, super smarty pants that they essentially have spent very little or no time specializing in being empathic, relatable, social animals. And so, like this could be like the kind of friend that you might think is an asshole because he insults you, but then at some point you realize that all of those insults, he was actually just dead on pointing out flaws in your character or shortcomings. it felt, pretty antagonistic. And it's easy to think of that person as an asshole for essentially insulting you. But then you're like, oh, they were stating the truth and they were doing it to try and help me out. That's often the issue with misunderstanding what an individual like this, or like the autistic super genius. It's like they're just going to point out your problems and not be concerned with how it comes across emotionally or whether they hurt your feelings or not. Um, so that's some aspects of, I guess, understanding this character. And another, like I said, in the super Socratic level of accomplishment, someone who is like a real philosopher. I guess I'm going to be like gatekeeping philosophy here. Not my intention, but real philosophy suffers from the thing that I guess it really benefits from, which is an unconditional pursuit of the truth, not utility, not success in any related field. It's just the truth, right? And so real philosophers are people who are capable in pursuing the truth to anywhere it leads them. Whereas like the sub philosopher might be able to reason with equal ability, equal intellect. But once their pursuit of the truth starts leading them to situations that maybe explain or justify, I don't know, opposing political views to the ones they hold, then they stop investigating philosophically and intellectually, and then they kind of hunker down and go, okay, we've got as far as we can. This line of inquiry seems to be justifying, I don't know, like pretty much anything that you don't believe in, politically, spiritually, emotionally, or whatever. It's pretty common for people to have a hard time uncovering valid, reasonable arguments for the opposite of what you hold true. Most of the time, people will resist that. Usually, the most brilliant people are the people who are capable of pursuing the truth no matter what, but it leaves them in a perplexing situation because, on one hand, they are really, really good at measuring things. And here, if you notice on the right, or sorry, on the left Marseille card, it is in what appears to us his right hand. In his left hand, he's got that scepter, but it's got these notches on it. And I like to think of that as some sort of like a measuring stick of some sort. And and yeah, so it's like these individuals are really good at measuring things, and they have a really strong knowledge base of whatever field they're sort of exploring things, looking for the truth in. But also, first of all, they got there by uncovering new truths. So it's not like they were always that wise. And then they're also generally pretty aware of the fact that no matter how sure they are of the things they know at any particular point in time, no matter how useful that knowledge is, how much can be done with it, on some level, they know that another revolution is just around the corner, that there's no reason, they don't really linger on any particular truth. They always kind of have one foot out the door. I really like the position of the King of Swords between an intellectual stability of some sort and the next intellectual revolution. Like they're always moving on from the one status quo accepted knowledge to that new thing, discovering new truths, uncovering new ideas. Um, and so I think this makes it the really honest ones. It makes it difficult for them to often do their job with any serious authority because they might be the first people to tell you that there's no way of fully knowing for sure whether something will or will not turn out in a certain way. I've got a pretty hilarious story from my personal experience. When I was younger, I had a job pretty briefly as a security guard, and the guy that trained me, the senior security guard at this particular site, he used to be the owner of the company, and his company essentially got taken over by one of his own employees. One of his employees effectively stole all of his customers, stole his whole business, and then did him the favor of hiring him as a senior security guard and consultant. And talking to him about it, I got the impression that the big difference between the two of them was that this guy, the previous owner, he was a security expert, right? He really knew his stuff inside out. He had this old kind of wisdom about him, you know. He was like a seasoned veteran of the security business, um, and he was the kind of guy, I'm guessing, that would tell people to their face that while installing the security system and implementing the security measures that he's implementing, while it will go a long way to, you know, help ensure, uh, you know, their safety or to maximize the assurance of their safety. I saw him as the kind of guy who would never guarantee anyone their safety. He would probably tell people to their face, nothing can make you 100% safe. If someone wants to get in, they'll get in. And that's the truth, right? Like, that is the truth. There is no absolute safety. And meanwhile, the guy that he used to employ, the guy who took over his company, I see him as the kind of guy who would go around. I mean, the old guy essentially told me that that's how this guy went around stealing his business. He went around and essentially said, "Look, you don't want to hire that guy. He can't even promise you security. I could promise you 100% safety." And he would just essentially lie to them. Now, it's exactly the kind of lie, it's exactly the kind of assurance that people ultimately are after when they're shopping around for security. It's like you don't want to be reminded of the 2.7% chance that, you know, the system will fail or something. It's like you want to buy peace of mind. You don't even care what the security system is, right? You just want peace of mind. So the upstart guy, the young blood, he that's how he stole the business. He told people what they wanted to hear, and it wasn't the truth. Meanwhile, the King of Swords, I see as the kind of individual who, you know, is aware of the truth, is aware of its limitations, and even though he could probably, like, this guy will still do the best job installing a security system. That other guy that promises everything, he'll probably overlook things. He'll probably miss things. He probably doesn't understand half of the gear he's using, right? So this guy will still provide you the safest service. It's just in his honesty about the state of things, he might make you doubt his expertise, even though he is the genuine expert. So I think that's one of the sort of obstacles and warnings of dealing with this kind of individual. It's it could be often really deceptive. Like, the people who are the best experts will often be the most reluctant to admit their expertise. Meanwhile, the people who are just, you know, blatantly lying are often mistaken for the real experts. So maybe if you're dealing with someone who's giving you a lot of, you know, on the one hand this, but on the other hand that, and you're not really feeling like this person could offer this like assurance. It's like that still might end up being the best guy to go with if they truly are the experts. So there's some stuff to consider there. And as far as the Four of Wands, is it this way? Is it this way? Who knows? Um, this card's cool. The Waite Smith representation on the right has looks like some sort of celebration. You got some people having a toga party, waving some flowers around, or maybe they're cheerleaders. Those are pom poms of some sort. Um, this card, I think this card is a great analogy for something that I read about Confucius a little while ago. Confucius was saying something about how more important to him than the laws that govern China, um, or the particular province that he was overseeing, that he thought what was more valuable to the continuing order of the people and the relationship between the government and the people and all that, he thought was the music and specifically the dances. He thought it was of vital importance that all of the people of the land knew how to do the same dances and had the same holidays where the same dances would be done on the, so you got your equinox dance party, and everyone can get in the middle of the town square and everyone does the same dance and everyone's all synchronized and all their movements, are moving together, and it's like you've been doing this since you were a little kid. It's a part of who you are. It's in your bones. um, I think that's a really good representation of the benefits and opportunities that this card symbolizes. I remember one of my friends went to, where was he, in Italy maybe? Portugal? Shit, I'm not sure. But went somewhere in Europe. He was staying in a relatively small town, and he was telling me that they have this dance party. I think it was around Christmas. I think it was around, the shortest day of the year, the longest night of the year. There's a lot of, most cultures have some sort of celebration to perk people up and cheer them up because it's so dark and depressing otherwise. Chop down a giant pine tree and set it on fire in the middle of the town square, something like that. That's why we put lights on a Christmas tree, because it's safer than setting the thing on fire. But yeah, he was saying that they had this dance party and that it lasts, like, that they dance all night long. They start dancing when the sun goes down and they don't stop dancing until the sun comes up. And it's like everybody. So, like, kids, parents are keeping their kids awake, old people, like old people that maybe they haven't moved all year. They get up, they dance, they wobble around for hours and hours and hours. It's like 12 hours or something crazy. And yeah, it's this huge party. Um, I think the kind of unity and joy and the kind of social benefits that this card represents, the arrival of, I think that's what they're a byproduct of. I think they're a byproduct specifically, not just of culture in general, because there's a lot of elements to culture, right? But I think this is specifically the cultural norms that you share between you and whoever the people you're close to are, coworkers at the office, people at school, your family members. Um, these are the physical routines, habits, the whatever is the sort of the physical choreography of your life that you share with people on a regular basis. And I think this is a great birthplace of a type of stability that people share that just feels really great. It creates a feeling of belonging, creates trust, and it's just a really joyful, happy thing. I think yoga might be an interesting modern day example. Like, in insofar as people, anyone who wakes up every day, goes to the same yoga studio every day at the same time, and does yoga in a classroom full of, there's like 30 other people, and you're all doing the same thing. Something like that. That kind of group unison of physical movement. So the same thing could be applied to, like, any group shared physical activity. Maybe dance classes. I'm just trying to think of others, like martial arts stuff. If you go to a martial arts school and it's large classes, obviously a lot of the stuff recently is like happening online. I still think that there's a lot of benefits that apply from, knowing that you're engaging in the same activity with other people, even if they're not physically there. But I don't think it's as good. But yeah, but this is any activity that is shared amongst people. So I think here, in terms of the opportunity here, first of all, it's the opportunity to discover that this is happening, right? Like, somewhere these kinds of ritualized physical movements are happening. Um, they might already, you know, it might already be happening in your life. Maybe this is something you've neglected for a little while that all you need to do is rediscover. Or if this isn't a part of your life, then this is like, I think this could be seen as an invitation to get out there and explore and find where this is happening. I think where I am, we've got there's quite a few lockdown regulations, but there's still a lot of I still see a lot of classes in parks, so that could be something to explore, um, or even like joining. Yeah, this might be one of the simplest ones. Joining one of those running groups. Sometimes I see in the early mornings or the evenings. Sometimes there'll be a pack of like. Sometimes it's like 50, 60 people, and they're just going for these runs around the city, joining something like that, but yeah, seeking this out. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge group, even if you just engage in some sort of regular physical activity with your loved one. Hint, hint. Waka chicka waka. Um, but yeah, this kind of, I think this card is often used to symbolize like a holiday, as a time of joy. And I think I kind of disagree with that. Um, I think that to look at this as a sporadic, occasional, annual, bi-monthly kind of thing is overlooking, you know, why people see this as a joyous event. And I think a big part of that is the regularity, the familiarity, kind of knowing what you're going to get into. There's certainly downsides to this, but you know we're not really focusing on those, seeing as this is right now being it's coming up as the optimistic positive angle on this card. But yeah, so that's it for today. We got this potentially disagreeable, potentially annoyingly uh, kind of fickle, won't take up a solid position expert, quote unquote, to contend with, who is an expert. Those are just some of the things that we need to accept about people who are, really out there intellectually. Um, totally worth, totally worth overcoming those limitations and quirks to get access to everything they have to offer. You really just need you essentially need to learn a whole new way of interacting with people. It's like you can't really go into a relationship with one of these individuals expecting that it's just going to go the same way as your relationships with most average people, right? But it is worth it. Still, nonetheless, the obstacles are there. And the opportunity to discover, rediscover, maybe more deeply implement regular, synchronous, social, physical activities, which will bring about which will bring about great joy, enjoyment, happiness, stability, order, those kinds of things. Thanks for watching. Drop me a like if you had a good time. Feel free to comment. Let me know if you want to be entered into a weekly draw for a free one-on-one tarot reading. I'll see you tomorrow, and take care.